Welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Josh Taylor in for Rich Walsh, joined by Tim Benz. Tim, let's get to a story that I think is starting to work its way up. I think this is going to become more important as time goes along here. Washington Post comes out with a story saying that when CBA talks in the NFL resume between the owners and the players union, there will be some discussion about either 18 games in the regular season or an expanded playoff.
Yep.
And in your mind, where do you fall in this? Does either option make sense for you, or does this even have any legs to it?
I'm against both. I don't like either option. They're obviously doing this because they want to increase revenue, so I understand, because even for the National Football League, Josh, they're trying to figure out more ways to get revenue streams, more money into the coffers, because there's less money to be gleaned from network TV, or at least that money has been diversified, and they have to figure out a way to funnel it back to themselves, which is what they want. I think the NFL of the major pro sports in North America has the truest, most important regular season by a country mile.
Agreed.
It's teetering already at 16. You don't need to go to 18. What do you need to see the Patriots win the AFC East with 4 weeks to go now?
That's the thing I'm worried about.
That's what I'm worried about. The other thing I'm worried about is, well, the other option is if they don't do both, which they probably want to do.
I can imagine them trying both.
But if they don't do both, then they go to a playoff format that features 7 teams in each conference. So that's 14 out of 32 making it. And, the NFL elitists used to joke about hockey getting too many teams in the playoffs.
Yeah,
well, now
did.
look at yourself if you get 14 out of 32. And we're already getting, on an annual basis, usually at least one, if not 2 teams in at 8 or 9 wins.
Right. So how much lower does it lower that bar?
Exactly. Now, sometimes that's a divisional champion, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Like the
Rams couple years ago? It might be the AFC North this year, by the way, at 8 or 9 wins. But from my point of view, I would rather do the playoffs than the 18-game season if they're trying to just get a little bit more money in, an extra revenue check from both conferences, both networks, to have the games on for an additional window for the first round of the playoffs. Because when they expanded to 6 in each conference, I was never a fan of the second team getting a bye too.
Right.
I don't know what being second in your conference in the regular season does to earn you a bye.
Agreed.
So, if that team now has to sing for its playoff supper a little bit more, I'm okay with that.
Plus, to your point, I think adding an extra team and maybe adding 1 extra game in the playoffs as opposed to adding 2 regular season games, it probably goes over a lot better with the players. Maybe not as much as far as preventing injuries, but there's a little bit of added.
Yeah, forget that for a second, because that's a whole other kettle of fish. But
True.
There's a yin and yang to this insofar as if they do make the NFL regular season a little less more important game to game because they're adding 2 more weeks, they're at least differentiating the importance of winning your conference in the regular season and making that a really true benefit of getting the bye while no one else does. So from that point of view, I'd prefer just seeing that be the answer. If they go to 2, I suppose 2 extra weeks, I can rationalize it that way. But you're the NFL. Figure out a way to get more. I just don't sacrifice. Sometimes you just run out of revenue. Maybe they just run. Even the NFL in the modern age has run out of revenue.
Are you saying that the NFL's like the Chicago Cubs? Because remember, they ran out of money too.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's just awkward. 412-575-2600 on the Borders and Borders hotline. Let's go to Pete in Squirrel Hill. Pete, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Gentlemen, how are you tonight? Thank you for taking my call.
Appreciate you.
Hey, Josh, let me run this by you guys. Last year, Major League Baseball set an all-time record, hit over 5,600 home runs in the year. This year, Josh, they're on pace to hit 7,200. That is a 28% increase, far and away the highest from year to year in the history of the game. Does baseball think it's been doing itself any favors by building these micro parks that are like $310 down a line, $399 to center field, and the ball technology? You got to be kidding me, Josh. And when I hear that chicks dig the long ball, chicks did jewelry, the beach, and money. They know nothing about the game of baseball. Thank you.
Oh, there's so much you can glean from that, and so going so well till the end there. All right, let's break this.
They do dig the long ball, and so do kids, and so do dads that bring their kids to games.
Specifically kids.
This whole thing about people aren't watching baseball anymore because there's too many walks, strikeouts, and homers. That's for us. That's for you and me, and that's for a guy in Squirrel Hill who's watching a sports talk show at 10:30 on a Saturday night. That's not why people aren't going on a regular basis to the tune of 9,000 at the park, when you used to be able to count on 25,000 at the park. Like, the casual fan isn't turned off by too many homers.
Right.
The second part of his call was more to the point, I think, than the first part. The ball technology strikes me as being the bigger change based on what the players have been saying this year, since he's talking about a major increase from last year.
There you go.
They didn't build any new parks this year, right?
Yeah,
one? Is there one new one?
I think there was one.
But I mean, for the most part, the park changes occurred 10 years ago,
Right.
5 years ago. All right? And PNC Park is not, unfair towards the hitter.
No, it's not an out. It's not an out.
And Milwaukee
outstanding
maybe,
hitter.
Cincinnati maybe, but they were when those parks opened up too. It's the ball technology that's the bigger variable now as opposed to the parks, if you want to talk about the jump this year.
And it's not that foreign of a concept, because that's become a debate in college baseball a couple of years back. I remember when I actually covered college baseball, covering the SEC, Arkansas head coach Dave Van Horn was talking about maybe trying to find a way to deaden the ball a bit because it had gotten a little bit too easy to hit out, because bat technology had been changing a lot in college baseball too. So this is not a debate that just happens in Major League Baseball. It's not just in the minors. It's even down to the college level. So the ball debate has become a bit of a thing. I will say this much, though. We have seen the game change to the point where we know where the emphasis lies now. We know the emphasis lies with picking out good pitches to hit, avoiding the zone, picking out something that you can actually drive and try to get some lift.
But no one left PNC Park today complaining about that 47-hour baseball game.
No one complained they scored too much.
Well, no one complained that there were too many homers.
Right.
What they might have been complaining about was the depth of the counts, the pitching changes, the fact that the game extended because when you needed a single, the guy topped the ball, Marte, back to the pitcher, and then the other guy was looking for a homer, and Josh Bell, when all he needed was a single, so he swung high and out of the zone. So it's not too many homers. It's the attempt to get homers all the time that's the problem. That's the big difference.
I totally agree with that. I think the approach to it has changed, and you will hear a couple broadcasters talk about that. Some of the older school guys do get frustrated with that, and that's something I think that comes up. Probably
but
not
again,
a lot,
that's
but
us. That's us and Major League Baseball broadcasters.
Exactly.
That's not a 35-year-old dad taking his 10-year-old kid to the park.
I would have to agree with that. I'd have to agree with it. Let's keep rolling. We got more baseball talk on the line here. Calvin in Clearfield. Calvin, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, Josh and Tim.
Hi.
Good evening.
Got two questions for both of you. On Monday, who do you think the Pirates should take in an MLB draft, and who do you think they will take? I'll hang up and listen to your comments. Thanks.
I think they should take Josh Bell's little brother if he has one.
I think that's an easy guess. I'd take Josh Bell's dad. He's a big, strong dude.
Oh, yeah, he might have some.
Is he eligible?
I don't know.
Draft him. In all seriousness, West Virginia's got a really good pitcher that actually threw tonight. Alex Manoah, I think is his name. Really talented kid. I'd love to see them try to snag that guy. Really talented right-hander. Do I think it'll happen? He might go before the Pirates actually get to their pick.
I want to see them get that defenseman from Sweden. Oh, the Pirates. I'm sorry. Sorry. I got confused.
A lot of people want that guy. A lot of people want that kid. Bob in Beachview. Bob,
I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on the Major League Baseball draft when I've just pretended being an expert on the NFL draft for about 3 weeks.
Fair enough. You there with us, Bob?
Yeah, I'm tired, guys, from all the rain this week. But I think I heard Tim right. He was talking about the NFL, playoff standings. When you have the 1 and 2 team, if you make the 2 team play for its position, they might have been chasing the number 1 team all season long, and they're close. Why take away their opportunity to play the number 1 team They have to fight for it rather than when they've been fighting for it all season.
Well, they still have the opportunity if they win.
What else are you going to do? How else would you do it? If you're going to add another team, as the NFL wants, how else would you do it?
Right. Someone has to play. We've since lost Bob. So sorry, he can't.
I think he was a little lost when he called, to be honest with you. Well, I mean, seriously, how else would you do it?
Someone's got to play. Out of the 2 teams, if you have 7 teams, one of the top 2 has to play. And you're not going to make the first.
I mean, you can't make a perfect system. Like, there's always going to be a screw job somewhere along the way.
It's the NCAA basketball.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Whether it's Team 69 versus 68, whether it's Team 8 versus Team 7, or in this case, yeah, on occasion you might have a year like 2004 where the Steelers are 15-1, the Patriots are 14-2.
Right.
Or the closer variance might be Team 2 versus Team 3 at 12-4 versus 11-5 or something
enough.
to that degree. So, like, yeah, maybe you get a situation where it's nip and tuck for 1 and 2, and there is some distance, and that team is kind of getting the short end of the stick where they have to play, but they didn't win. You know, like, I think there should be something special at any point about winning your regular season in whatever capacity possible, be it a division, be it a conference. So I think there's way too little of a margin between first place and second place in the conference right now. And if they're going to take that away, if that's the thing that goes away as a result of this, so be it.
Really good points by you, Tim. We will take a break. I want to get your thoughts on a report about the possibility of the Penguins and Minnesota trade with Phil Kessel not being dead. We'll talk about that when we come back.